President Buhari has written to the National Assembly officially informing lawmakers that he has given anticipatory approval for the payment of $496 million to the U.S. government to purchase Tucano aircrafts. In the correspondence to the National Assembly, President Buhari explained why he gave the anticipatory approval for the purchase of the aircrafts. Now, some lawmakers in both chambers are not on board with this action by the president and had very strong words for President Buhari.
The National Assembly had strong words for President Buhari over his anticipatory approval for the payment of $496 million to the U.S. government to purchase Tucano aircrafts. Lawmakers in the Senate and House of Representatives insist that President Buhari violated the Constitution by failing to get the approval from the National Assembly for the withdrawal of $496 million from the excess crude account to purchase the fighter jet.
Actually, Mr. President, as a consequence, the only thing that we can draw from on this is that we call on you, Mr. President, to invoke Section 143 of this Constitution.
Section 143 of the Constitution, which Senator Uwogide wants the Senate to invoke, deals with the impeachment of the president. Lawmakers from the opposition PDP agree with Senator Uwogide's position.
I remember the late Okadibo was removed from office based on anticipatory budgetary. We have no other thing to do than to follow the Constitution, which my colleague has quoted, Section 143 of the Constitution.
But lawmakers from the ruling APC oppose the call for impeachment of the president.
I do not think we should impeach the president, but we should demand that the money be returned to follow due process to the end.
As far as I'm concerned, this is the first time that expenditure of this kind, money that was withdrawn from excess crude account, is being discussed in this National Assembly. This is a PDP conspiracy, Mr. President. And I would like PDP to come out today to tell us which of their governors have taken the money released on excess crude account to the states who are taken to state assemblies for approval.
Senate President Bukola Saraki put forward his position on the matter, and the Senate took a position.
Between September and February, with all due respect, there were ample time for the executive to have carried us along on this issue. The suggestion of the leader that let us send it to judiciary to advise, one, whether truly, from those who are not laymen, whether the Constitution has been breached, two, the circumstances surrounding that, whether it does in any way justify that, they will advise us.
The Committee on Judiciary is to report back to the Senate on Wednesday, May the 2nd, on its findings. Meanwhile, the Tucano fighter jet controversy was a huge topic of discussion for 2 days in the House of Representatives. On the first day the matter was tabled before the House, the Speaker read a letter from the President on his approval of $496 million for the purchase of the helicopters from the United States of America.
In the expectation that the National Assembly would have no objection to the purchase of these highly specialized aircraft, which is critical to national security, granted anticipatory approval for the release of $496,374,470 US dollars.
This is only a singular case.
A point of order describing the action of the president as impeachable was immediately raised and received strong support from other lawmakers.
A constitutional infraction as serious as expenditure without the National Assembly clearly runs foul of this Constitution and is an impeachable offense.
Then the chairman of Rules and Business raised another point of order, which elicited strong reactions from lawmakers.
A letter of this nature constitutes first reading. It is first reading. I mean, solid arguments from Honorable Chinda, but it's like putting the cart before the horse. The truth of the matter is that second reading will have the opportunity to strike this down.
Lawmakers were divided on whether or not to debate the matter right away.
He brought a letter here today that he withdrew $452 million Nigerian money without approval of Parliament. And somebody is Somebody is quoting our order. Which order?
The Speaker ruled on the matter.
So we have a procedure. All we can do is to list it, and then all the issues we have raised can be raised, and then the House will come to a decision on this matter. So we'll select it for debate.
The matter was tabled for the second time during the week. This time, it was a motion to include the $496 million for the purchase of the aircraft in the 2018 appropriation bill.
Request to include the sum of $496,374,470 in the 2018 appropriation bill.
Now this one is not a bill, and we are urging ourselves to ask the executive to allow us initiate a bill and put it in a bill process that is going on. This matter ought to be thrown away.
The House was divided over the procedures for presentation of bills and respect for the Constitution.
There is no provision therein wherein a bill has been committed to a committee and the bill is under consideration. It has not been brought to the committee of the whole.
It should have come as a bill anyways. If it's a money bill, then we'll now talk about it as a money bill. But you're bringing it as a motion for us to decide. And I mean, let's not do the wrong things and set a precedent here.
To guide the House appropriately, lawmakers were asked to give their views on the issue.
The process is unconstitutional. It goes against democracy, and it goes against every principle of law.
I appeal to my honorable colleagues to please let reason prevail and let us discuss this issue as honorable men and women of the Parliament.
The Speaker halted further debate on the matter and gave his ruling.
My ruling would be to still refer this matter to the Committee on Rules and Business to check the archives of the House or other parliaments elsewhere to see whether there's any precedent that we can ground this communication on.